Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show, Sunday night, Season 1. So I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you live from the bowels of the Pine Hills Palace, just next to Orlando, Florida. I've got with me from the great Midwest, Mr. RDV. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. I am enjoying my Sunday, and it is now time for Gecko Sunday.
And Gecko does not mean car insurance, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we're talking about Season 1 of the TV show from El Rey, From Dusk Till Dawn, episodes 3 and 4 we're doing. Last week we did 1 and 2, and this week we're going to be talking about 3 and 4 and how they continued. And Doctor, one of the things that we talked about for the overall themes for episodes 1 and 2 is that, we were curious to see how religiously the show was going to follow the movie from 1996 and whether or not they were going to take certain liberties for it. And I think the consensus was between us is that they did a pretty good job in the show with Robert Rodriguez and everybody else being involved with it, of actually kind of maintaining a certain amount of fidelity with the original source material. In other words, you're not going to get pissed off if you've seen the movie with what they do, but also just as importantly is like when we talked about Ash versus the Evil Dead Season 1, also on Xtreme TV, if you look that up, is the fact that the original people were involved in it and they did a great job of expanding the source material, and we definitely get a taste of that in episode 3. So in episode 3, we get what I think are two interesting things and then a whole lot of dialogue. So for me, my initial thoughts are that I like these 2 episodes, but 3 seem to kind of slow down after the first 2. But that's because there's a lot of backstory that they're trying to fill you in. But I think they try to slow down because, episode 4, towards the end of episode 4, they kind of pick up the pace here a little bit with it too. So for me, 3 is more filler to me. 4 is a little bit better, but there's some solid stuff in both. What were your initial impressions of these 2 episodes?
Episode 3 is a filler. Episode 4 continues more of the story. 3 added a new character, and then basically it was the motel scene where, same as the movie, Richie goes and kills the freaking hostage. Urgh.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes, episode 3 is called Mistress, and that's for a good reason because, of course, Seth and Richie are trying to make it to the border. They get in contact with Carlos, and Carlos is basically saying, yeah, this is what's going to happen. You get there. And before we talk about the Mistress, I want to talk about Carlos because I think he's one of the 2 bright things about this episode. I mentioned before in the first 2 episodes, Carlos, the main drug lord that has his hands on a lot of things. I think he's an interesting character. We know he's a something, some sort of serpent or vampire or whatever you want to call it, because we saw him in the day taking over a guy in a truck trying to have him do something. And then here we see 2 guys try and stiff him. And basically it's an excuse to kind of get something set up with what he's doing. But it shows off what I think is a really great scene with Carlos, and that's this. He's sitting there in his warehouse with these 2 guys trying to jack him. He's so calm, he's so patient. He's like, you're going to go get my stuff, and, I don't do business like this. But whoever the actor is for Carlos, man, the guy's just got a great patience and timing without coming across as an arrogant prick or a know-it-all smartass, but really intelligent. I'm not going to say likable, but he's really like I don't know if you'd call it like lawful evil or what, but this guy's got good screen presence. I think he's really solid and very strong. And while we know he's a quote-unquote maybe bad guy, what we do see is we start seeing a little bit of what he's capable of doing and how extensive his operations are. And I just, out of everybody I've seen so far in this episode, I'm a big Don Johnson fan. I'm really interested in Carlos's character because he just jumps off the screen to me. What do you think about him?
Well, I say he's come a long way from playing the funny immigrant guy on that 70s show. Playing
That's
Fez.
him? You said that last week. I don't watch the 70s show, but is it Fez or who?
It's Fez, yeah. And
Fez.
he's always the one who's like goes up to Don and is like, I love you. It's like, he's just so awkward, like, it's, but yeah, he was the one he didn't fully understand it because he's there illegally. It's always been the characters he plays. Even in the ranch, he played another character. He's like, yeah, he's there illegally in the United States. It's again, so
killed it for me, Saint Fez.
I know, but he kills it playing this role here. When he plays serious roles like this, I'm like, wow, it's the first I've ever seen him in a serious role. I'm sure he's probably done some other movies too. Maybe he's done some horror movies. I don't know.
Right.
But he's actually did pretty well. And I actually kind of like the fact that he's actually he's got this character. This character has gone a long way from being Cheech Martin.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I just think it's kind of interesting because obviously the Gecko brothers are what's driving this forward, but what I'm actually more interested in now is not so much them. The show, this is where three's kind of filler and gets a little tough for me because, like they say, they introduce what I'm going to call the mistress character. I'll let you talk about her here in a moment. But for me, you get a lot of idea of, God, there's a hell of a lot of crap going on here. And then because we're in the third episode out of a 10-episode series run on El Rey, we go, looks like season 1 is just going to be basically the movie retold over 10 hours approximately, as opposed to an hour and a half, 2 hours like the original movie. And I'm okay with that, but I just don't want it to drag. I felt there was only one episode of drag in Ash vs. Evil Dead, but in this show so far, 3, I'm going, well, I guess if you have to get some filler in because a bunch more stuff's going to come, get it in early so we know what's coming. But there's some interesting scenes, I think, in here, and I think a big portion of the episode centers around, Richie's. I guess it's his wife or his ex-wife. I'm going to say, but I get,
Seth is ex-wife, not Richie.
Seth, excuse me. Yeah, Richie. Yeah, Richie's not going to marry anytime soon. But this is where it gets a little frustrating because with Seth, at this point, we technically know he's a little off his gourd. And he's not a good guy. We definitely see more of that in these 2 episodes. But he goes to pick up some food, and the chick who's ringing him up is kind of funny. She's got this really peppy, Texas kind of thing going on or whatever. But he sees this hot woman sit down, says, "Never mind, go see her." They have relations in the ladies' room. And then, of course, they come out and they're like, "Oh, okay, that was the big thing they have to do before they get to El Rey. He's got to go bust a nut and his wife." And I thought ex-wife because he was trying to basically buy her off with some money. But here's what I liked about her. She stood out. She's tall, it looks like, but because she's kind of thin, but athletically built. She's got a great-looking face. It's real piercing. And she looked like, don't mess with Texas, like not a slow kind of girl like this. But she seemed like she was just somebody that really had some backstory to her other than just his wife. I thought, wow, here's a character that I'd be interested in seeing more of. And unfortunately, the problem is he's basically saying, "Hey, we got to get to El Rey. It's me and Seth. You can't really be a part of it." And he tries to let her off the hook. She loves him, but she's not like being a bitch about it. But it's just, I don't know. I was really intrigued by this character, and I don't know if they really handled it right, but I don't know if we're going to see more of her or not. I get the feeling after these 2 episodes we won't, which is disappointing to me. And the title of this episode is Mistress because of her. What did you think?
I said she's hot, she's crazy, she knows he's a crowbar and a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they're in there and the cop shows up behind him and she just goes up, she just pulls the gun around the cop's head. And he's like, "What?"
She's really good. You said something about her like she's pretty, so I assume she's somebody, but I wouldn't know who.
It's Adrienne Pilecki, also known as she's also basically recently done since this show. She's been on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She plays Mockingbird, Bobby Orton. She's also played Wonder Woman in a failed NBC pilot for a TV show that was canceled. I forgot what the reason why they canceled it, but yeah, she's been in a few different things. She's also been on Supernatural, I believe, as well. I'm not sure.
Well, isn't Jared? Well, I don't know if it's Padalecki or Palicki. I don't know if they're related or
no. Padalecki.
Okay.
His name's.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she stood off the screen to me, much like Carlos did. But the difference is, we know Carlos is an actual, so far, character here, almost major, I'd imagine. But for her, it was disappointing at least for me, to seem like she's not going to be a part of it, because frankly, they didn't need it. So my whole question is, why did they have to have her in here? And I'm trying to figure out with the story, because frankly, she was memorable enough where I wanted to see more. But really, there's more going on in this episode. It's not just that. You get a lot of these flashbacks at different times of these story threads, which if you're watching, you can piece them together. I don't know if I'm liking that. I don't hate it, but I don't know if I like it. It's just sort of there. But there's a lot going on, because we get Ranger Freddy, who's out on the trail. He's a bit annoying, trying to just, he seems like a little lost puppy, wanting to bite the leg off the bad guy or something. And now he looks like a legit ranger. I don't know if he's overdoing it or what, but part of me almost wants to say chill out. But I don't know. I like him, but there's something about him that's off. But he's meeting up with this professor talking about this, what we talked about, this little knife that he found that has like this all-seeing eye symbol in it. And I popped hard because I'm like, oh my God, they've got Jake Busey in here as the professor. And I got to say this, Jake Busey, to me, I don't know if he's trying to play it straight. I don't know if he's trying to play everything like Gary Busey always did, his dad. But Jake Busey just nailed it in here. And as soon as I saw him, I said, man, I hope we get more Jake Busey in the show, because he plays this professor, and he plays where you can tell he's having an orgasm when he sees the knife and everything. He's got all this information. And this is really the big data dump on all the stuff that's going on, whether it's the 9 Mayan gods and the first level of hell and all this crap. And it's like, holy shit, this is a lot. This just is a space thing,
I gotta say, I popped more when I saw him at the bar talking to the cop. And here Jake Busey's got the glasses on. He's older. He's got the shirt cuff, called up, and he's got the nice sweater. I'm like, it's Robert Redford. He looked totally different than when he normally is. Yeah, but then it starts going on more, and you're like, and then you see like he's got those crazy eyes. So I'm like, is he a crazy person on the show? And then to like, yeah, it's just like, wow. Well, yeah, when he takes off his glasses, he starts staring at the cop. He's like, it starts telling him, oh yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna play some kind of person.
Yeah, and the Ranger Freddy had showed him the knife or whatever, and he kind of did the Eddie Murphy 48 Hours thing, where he just kind of like lights the guy's lighter and puts it in his pocket while he's talking to steal it, and he's like, "Give me on a knife back." He's like, "Well, you told me to take it to the lab for some tests, to the and all that," and he's like, "No, I didn't," and I'm like, he's gonna be an annoying character, which to me he's gonna be the comic relief, because the show's actually, in my opinion, it's not been too funny. There's been some intense scenes of dread, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Right now we're getting the data dump, so it's kind of like I say, dragging a little bit. But
the only thing that's really out of place here was the Big Kahuna Burger, Hawaiian burger restaurant joint in Texas,
in the middle of BFE, Texas.
I was like,
it's from it's a playoff of not Johnny Mnemonic, but Point Break, right? The Big Kahuna, the surf and all that stuff.
Yeah, I know. But I want to go back to talking about Richie with the hostage. The bank
I was leaving.
He starts man. Like he starts now. I'm so thankful that they actually got a good-looking woman compared to the woman that was in the movie. Because now it makes more sense as why he killed her. She's like, she's seeing positions. She's all over like, she's like, kill me. She's all like in sexy lingerie and stuff. She's, come here, and on the bed. And he's just like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, because he's got the eyeball in his hand, so it's the all-seeing eye off the dagger.
Yeah.
So he's having these visions, and I think he looks through it or whatever, and he sees the really hot one we saw. I think it was in episode 1, who's the lady on the cover of the show, who I imagine we'll see more of later.
But yeah, it's weird seeing two different sides of her. Like now we actually get to see his point of view, what's going on, and supposedly he's having visions. Where the movie we didn't know, he was just crazy.
Yeah. And here it's more, we know there's something more to it just because of what's going on and the supernatural element of the world around us. So we go, okay, he's not just, on the spectrum or a weirdo. Yeah. He's definitely got some stuff.
And we see the Fullers at the end where you can see the kid and her dad are starting to get a little bit on a rocky side. She's not really trusting him. She kind of wants to leave it on her own. Scott's like kind of nagging her.
Yeah, Scott's not really doing much now, but that happens. Not everybody can do something all the time. One of the things I did like here, and I've said this before about Robert Patrick, is while I certainly have no issues with the way Mr. Fuller was portrayed in the movie, he came across as still kind of like a jerk to me. And here he seems like, a somber guy, and he's really downplaying, what's going on. And I like his delivery with Kate because they're having a conversation, and basically he's just like, no, when your mom died, it really hit us all hard, and I just think we need to spend some time together as a family. But he's not saying it like in an overly preachy way. He's not saying it like, all righteous and everything else that makes you go, oh, shut up. He's not. He seems very genuine about it. He goes, we just need to spend a little bit more time together. I think it's been hard and all that too. So this is like a new adventure for us to spend time. And he seems really sincere about it. But of course, what happens is Kate kind of comes across some information that it turns out he had been drinking a little bit and was really the cause of the car accident where his wife died. And so he feels immense guilt to it. It's not like, oh, the Lord took us away from her, or took her away from us or any of that. It's just he's the one that screwed up, and that's why he feels disattached, but not necessarily angry. He feels almost shameful, not guilty even. So I actually kind of like the take that Robert Patrick's bringing into him. So it's not annoying me nearly as much as what it kind of did in the movie a little bit, where we get just a cheesy holier than now, kind of portrayal, and that's it. And I don't know. I think there's a lot more to it, and I think Patrick being in there is just a really solid choice too. But you're right about Vanessa, because she messes up his car and everything too, and it's just, like I said, it's more of a backfill kind of thing. But Carlos popped off, and Vanessa did as well. But ultimately, I think out of these two episodes, I enjoyed 4 a little bit more, and this is kind of like literally just a continuation, but you get a bit more stuff going in here. Katie's driving the car because Jacob went and got shit faced. The RV had broke down, so now they're at this hotel, and so we're like, okay, this is where everything's going to get to a head, because we know from the movie that if they keep kind of consistent with it, this is what's supposed to happen too. But for me, I kind of just was waiting for 1 or 2 things to happen, and we definitely get in here too. You have the stupid stuff like Freddy's basically letting his boss know, hey, there's a blood cult, there's a lot more to this than what you think, and he kind of gets the okay to kind of keep going. But it's like, yeah, we don't really care about that. We really care about El Rey. We really care about what's going on. And to me, I'm looking at this going, all right, I feel like this episode's picking up a little bit too, but
like Freddy is more is like, I don't care what's any cult and that crap, I just want I want the Gecko brothers.
Yeah, he's frothing at the mouth. He's like a dog in pursuit of a bone. I mean, it's annoying, but it's good in a way, because this whole Ranger thing I like, because most people don't talk about Rangers that much, and how I think it's in the Constitution of Texas, it's a little different than a police cop. So there's a different element to it. So at least from his loyalty to seeking these guys out, I appreciated his intensity in the chase, but at what cost? I imagine.
You're right.
You got a wife and kid.
You're right. You don't hear anything about Rangers at all unless it's like Rangers in the Army. The last thing I heard from Rangers, anything to do with the Ranger, was Clint Eastwood, Josie Wales. This Freddy is, he's foaming at the mouth. He's like, I just want to get the Gecko brothers, especially in episode 4 they don't no one's found out yet though, but he's Richie killed the hostage. Seth comes in as the comeback in the motel, and he's like, what the hell is going on here? It's like, the Fullers pull into the motel because the RV breaks down.
Yep.
So then Seth is like, I need this, this is our ticket. That's how we're gonna get across. We're gonna take this RV and across, Of course, it means they have to take the family hostage and all that stuff. The way it starts off is you see Kate. She's they're at the motel. And she's bathing in her bikini. Looking fly. But and I can say that because the actress is over. She's over 18. Okay. But so Richie's just standing there. And he's looking at the blinds and he's checking her out. And I'm thinking, in the story, Richie is much, much older than her, and she's probably only 15. So I'm thinking, what is going on with this guy? It's like, and then you see him. He takes the bra. I think it's from I forgot where he got it from. I think he got it from.
It was from her clothes because she was changing into her bathing suit.
Yeah. And he just puts it up, holds it up to his chest. I was like, no, Richie, no, Richie, just stop. somebody put Richie out. But
definitely Richie has a thing with women. I mean,
and I was afraid of because the movie, I'm like, he was a rapist. I'm thinking like, please don't let him be this in the series. Please don't let him be a rapist in the series.
Right.
So, because he already gouged out the eyeballs of the actual girl and the hostage.
Yeah, the bank teller.
Yeah. Then they actually showed more of it than what you saw in the movie.
Yeah, some quick flashes too. When Seth saw that or whatever, I thought he acted really, really well. And I know one of the things we brought up last time is we said, hey, can we really, really buy George Clooney as a serious actor? And I said, well, I liked him when he's kind of doing the negotiating thing, which is what this character is. In a way, he's not a bank robber. He's more of a planner, more of an executioner. And by that, I mean executioner of a plan, not a killer, but he knows he's got a messed up brother. And I thought he did a fantastic job in here, where you just see literally a few flickers of what you're talking about with the socketless head and body all mangled, where he just kind of loses it on him. And I'm like, yeah, that's good stuff. It's starting to feel pretty dark, and I like it.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this. You see in here the scene that you started to mention there about Kate being in the pool and she's supposedly being underage. One thing I will say about this character, she's not hot, like sexy, like you look at her. She's not ugly. She's not plain. I think she's more a cross between. I think she's more cute than she is pretty. But I think that's just the way her facial features are, because she's in a very nondescript two-piece bathing suit. She's not skinny. She's not fat. She's definitely got, a decent looking body to it. But what they do is they don't over sexualize the scene, except for, Richie's kind of lusting after her, but they kind of downplay it and have this little conversation. You can tell she's intrigued by, of course, the attention of a good looking older man, all dressed up with glasses and all that, and having a sharp conversation. You can see where he's having visions and, where she's like, oh, please take my bikini top off and all that. And there's something about her and the way her eyes look and this look she gets on her face. I'm going, okay, I don't know what the deal is with her character going forward, but there's more to it than meets the eye, or has to be, in my opinion, because she just seems like she's very womanly in her approach and allowing this to kind of play out a little bit. She is bringing him along and teasing him like a cat would do, playing with its prey, and he's trying to do the same thing too. So it's kind of interesting to see that. And I actually thought their little interaction for a few minutes was the best part of this entire episode by far. It's very electric, actually. Very good chemistry.
Like I said, Kate actually has, just like the movie, she has a bigger part in the series. You'll find out eventually when if we ever do season 2.
Well, I know that, and you know that. But we don't know that yet because this is only the 4th episode. So, yeah, no, it really stood out because we know sexuality and beautiful women have a part to play in here too. And basically, the whole backstory is the very first clip that you saw in episode 1 before the rolling credits is this beautiful woman running around at night, falls into a snake pit, and snakes go through her mouth. You see visions of a snake going through his mouth. But also, the idea is that, hey, this woman was so hot that this one god wanted her to be a mistress of the night sort of thing. And you're like, oh, okay, so this is maybe the, genesis of what they're talking about. And then, of course, when they tell you a part of the history, because there's so many flashbacks and side stories like this that we have to time up, you go, oh, at the time of them presenting it, it must happen to do with the story, because they do that like around when Kate's talking, and you're like, okay, so Kate's got something to do with women and whatever the 9 Mayan Gods thing's going to be and all this. And you're like, okay, I see what's going on here.
What's also great about this episode is Scott gets more annoying and the dad gets more touchy-feely.
Talk about the dad getting touchy-feely, because this is a little weird. Go ahead.
The dad is like, I'm just joking, because he puts his hand on Scott and he's like, son, you believe me, and Scott's just kind of like, he's torn between. They're like, the dad's trying to turn Scott against Kate because Kate's rebelling. He's just like, don't be like your sister. You're a good kid. And, it's like, we love you and your mother. We both love you as we adopt you and all that stuff. And it's just.
Let me ask you a question about this. Seriously. When she's out there at the pool, and then they cut back to him talking to Scott, And Scott's sitting on the bed, and of course the Gecko brothers break in or whatever. And it's like it's just me here and the boy, and he's sitting there, an old white guy with glasses and hat, and you've got a young, decent-looking teenage kid, Asian guy, small guy. Did you get some sort of weird, creepy vibe? Because I know I did. Since he's supposed to be a priest, I thought, I could see how the people coming here would go, this is kind of a weird look, but they won't tell, and you got to. So anyway, because he's a little handsy, I agree with you, but not in that way, but more of an I'm holier than thou, kind of controlling. We're going to put my hand on your shoulder to kind of basically make you sit down and control you using my words. But yeah, it was a weird vibe. I felt that too.
And we get more Don Johnson as well. We get a flashback episode with Freddy and him going after somebody.
Yeah, I was disappointed, of course, that they killed off Don Johnson because I think I'm a big fan of him, and he's mid to late 60s, I think, when the show was filmed, close to 70. Still looks great. Still, Don Johnson is not an over the top actor. He's a very slick, smooth guy, and I always appreciated that. And then here, there's an interesting little piece because Freddy the Ranger is having a vision about an earlier shootout, and so you're just going, oh, is Freddy getting visions now a little bit too, especially when he's got this knife. But basically, Don Johnson's character, has a speech and tells him something like that. You know what? The reason why you give up on this chase, it's because you've got the soul of a ranger, and that's why you don't like the sight of blood. And just the way it was delivered and the way he looked at him, I go, okay, we're learning a little bit of the essence of each character about some trait of them that's defining them. And this ranger's annoying almost in his pursuit of the Gecko brothers. He's obviously, like I said, got a lot to lose with the wife and kid at it, and tribute to how sincere that must be if you're a ranger, especially trying to do some avenging thing. I don't know how much that would happen in real life, but yeah, he's all in. And you're like, well, I feel sorry for the wife and kid because she just can't end good. But he's got that passion, he's got that drive. He is a chaser. He's not going to give up. So we're seeing that about some of the characters, and so we don't know about Seth per se, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with everything, because ultimately what it comes down to is that Seth and Richie, get together with everybody at the RV, or that's the game plan to kind of get out. So that at the beginning of this episode, this is where everything's going to tie together before we get one big push and chase towards getting over the border or whatever comes next. So I did like that in this episode, that kind of here at the end it meets, and actually because his wife Vanessa gave him up. He sees the Camaro, he gets there.
Yep. Seth gets shot too, which I thought was interesting too, by Freddy towards the end. Yeah,
and they kind of have this little, if you want to call it, like a rooftop chase. I've seen better on T.J. Hooker, but he they go to shoot each other, and their bullets are out, and he's like, oh, we're gonna do this, and the ranger grabs him, and they kind of go off the side of the building, but they land on the RV, and then he gets punched, and a really, really bad punch. If you go back and look at it, doesn't even make contact.
I don't know. I guess I've seen better than T.J. Hooker, Revenge of the Ninja, little kid.
You're right. And if you haven't listened to Revenge of the Ninja, go do it, because it's the best ninja movie of all time. We have that currently up on Xtreme Movie Show, so check that out. Let other people know about it. Once it gets to 100 views, we're going to rotate it out with something else, and it's getting really close. Anyway, back to the episode. Yeah, so to me, The Doctor, I think these two episodes, like I said, are pretty good. I think I enjoyed the first two more. I wasn't disappointed in these. I'm intrigued with where it's going because of the backstory, and even though season 3 kind of was a bit of filler to me, I did like Jake Busey's character. I did like Vanessa in it. I see that, okay, even though they killed off Don Johnson, you're still going to see some of them. So to me as a viewer, I'm watching this going, okay, it looks great. It's a bit somber, I would say, in its tone. It's not goofy. I don't hate anybody. I'm trying to decide who emotionally I'm attached to. So I'm entertained so far, and I want to get emotionally invested in it. But there's something about not knowing what's going on that's got my interest peaked right now, and I'm curious to see how that goes. So to me, I think it's done a really good job of keeping up that intensity from the first 2 episodes. And overall, I'm looking forward to next week when we do episodes 5 and 6.
Definitely.
About these 2 episodes.
Well, I like that we learn more about Jennifer Fuller, deceased pastor's wife. So we're learning more about this as it goes on. And like we're actually, and I'm thinking, is this priest hiding something? Because every time he talks about the wife, he kind of gets agitated,
That's
and
true.
yeah,
That's a good observation.
and the way he's acting now makes me he acts kind of guilty. So who knows? Maybe he's just sad. Maybe he's surprised he doesn't want to talk about it. He's lost his faith because of that stuff. Who knows?
Right.
But I never trust that guy. That guy kills kids.
Well, all I know is they've got this hot woman that shows up. She's on the print for our title screen, and also we've seen her in a couple episodes now, just a flash of her. So obviously, I think she's the one woman that fell through into the snake pit. And I assume that's Pandemonium or whatever, some High character.
Eliza Gonzalez is the actress.
Which we'll be talking more of, I'm sure. But it's intriguing, like I say. So to me, I'm still trying to wrap my head around as a viewer the extent of where this is going to go. And right now, there's a lot to it. And I appreciate that. They definitely didn't just say, okay, we're going to take 10 hours, to retell an hour and a half, 2-hour movie from, 25 years ago. And again, because Robert Rodriguez is involved in it, directing it, the stories by Robert Kurtzman, it's done a lot of good stuff. It's really meat and potatoes where I'm going, man, this is really high quality television content. So to me, I think if you haven't seen it, like we said before last week, check out the first few episodes. If you like the way this story is told, it's been very consistent. It's like the movie, but I think it's actually a level darker, deeper, whatever you want to call it, than the movie. And I enjoyed the movie. I thought the movie was solid, it was good. More of a popcorn flick to me, but this definitely fleshes out. And I'm already 4 episodes in, Doctor, going, I kind of wish the movies would have been this detailed. What do you think?
The movie, like you said, there's no way they could be this detailed as far as TV series. There's no way, because TV series are able to do how many hours? Each episode is like either half an hour to an hour, depending on what series it is. So they're obviously gonna put more into this. I like this because the fact that they didn't put filler in, other than episode 3. But it's actually spending on the actual plot of the movie. We're not gonna just get we're just gonna add this here and this have nothing to do with anything. It's just there. But Seth goes to eat a burger. That's it. And I'm like, okay. He talks to this guy, gets in a bar fight, and then back to the story.
Yeah. What? Well, because the main plot in current real time is not actually progressing that fast, so we have to fill it in with all these other things to take up the hour or two for these 2 episodes for things to make do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, all they have to do is, if they really want to fill in stuff, just have them show them guys I gotta go take a leak. Then go.
Yeah. All right, Doctor, I'd like to thank you for showing up tonight, being able to go over these episodes here. Looking forward to doing 5 and 6 next week. Guys that are listening to the show, ladies, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys retweeting it out. We have, a lot more to talk about with the next remaining episodes, too. So looking forward to talking about that next week.
I thought we maybe we just got a surprise guest just popped up, I don't know if we should let him in or not.
I have not seen him yet, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, he's talking about. He wants to know if he should jump on or not. Do you want to? I think we should let him on. The kid watch these movies or these shows. Pixel, if you're listening, get your ass on here.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in Central Florida, and we've had a lot of thunderstorms lately, and we've had some technical issues going out there too. So, Pixel had some issues getting in, but if he's available, I'd like to get him in. Yeah, Professor Pixel, ladies and gentlemen, is the 3rd member of our panel, along with RDV and myself, Rob Classic, as we like to say. But we'll talk about him coming in. Yeah, Pixel had brought up an interesting point about the episodes that I was going to ask him about too, because he's the one that brought up the timelines and the sequences. And we always go back to the TV show Lost about flashbacks and how they can fill in and serve a purpose, but then also flash forwards. And then you get stuff like Westworld where everybody's, marking out for themselves, the writers, and being jerk offs, trying to slip in different timelines without you knowing about it, because they're trying to be cute and do some sort of quote unquote awesome storytelling. When frankly, just show me what's going on in the damn thing. I can figure it out. Where nobody's stupid as a watcher. You don't have to force feed them. So in episode 3, we've got all this going on. It's a very important episode. Doesn't mean it's an action show, but to me, this is not an action show, Doctor. I think it's more of a drama. I would say, at least so far. How would you describe it?
It's gore, a little bit of action, the drama. It's just right now you're building up to things. You know, we get to the titty twister yet, bro. Hold on. Once we get there, then it's all action. More than one way.
Well, one of the trends I think coming in these types of shows here is, for me and El Rey, when this came out, I think it was 2015, I believe, or 16, the first season. I had mentioned before that when El Rey, the channel, launched, this was still, I believe, episodic. You know, so every week you had to watch the episode. But for me, now that everything primarily on Netflix and other streaming services is, once it drops, you're in a situation where you can binge watch it all. And while that's great from a momentum watching and everything, especially if you get hooked, there was something to be said about just watching an episode, letting it chill, come back to the next episode, and then, you know, seeing how it fills out. So to me, I don't know if that makes it worse or not or what, but this was one of the last shows on regular television that I actually would record, you know, on my DVR and watch it. You know, if I wasn't home, going, oh, there's my episode, let me go ahead and watch it. And I think a show like this, it would have been tailor-made, not just for El Rey, but for something like a Netflix or an HBO Max that we've talked about, as well as Apple TV. I've mentioned I've seen a few things on there that are pretty good. Well, I'll say this. It looks like we've got some issues with Pixel still trying to join or whatever, so we're just going to call it a night. Pixel, if you're listening, no worries. We'll get back in touch with you about making sure you get on. It's still raining over here. Hopefully everything's okay where you're at. We had some rough storms. We had 60-mile-an-hour winds. I had 3 sections of wall completely destroyed, knocked down, a few pine trees crossing some roads up here over the past few days. So pretty brutal stuff. And speaking of the devil, as I was getting ready to say goodnight, there he is. You are now live listening to Professor Pixel. Good evening, sir.
He's a little slow, okay? Give him credits, okay? Don't get on it. Don't get on his case.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Pixel, say something.
Pixel.
We can't hear you if you're talking, Pixel. You're not muted indeed.
Heard something there. Hearing crackling now.
Yeah, his line. You hear that?
Yeesh.
All right, we're going to call it a night. Pixel.
Now we can hear. I can hear you now.
Sorry, I was just about to say my headphones were messing up and I had alarm issues and it's been a lot.
Sir, you are live, no excuses. So, initial and final thoughts of episodes 3 and 4. We will shut up and let you have the floor.
Well, 3 and 4, we are finally heading towards the border now. I really like how we have taken the basic elements of the movie and we have just moved on, and it's ever expanding. I do have one comment about episode 3.
Uh-huh.
It is not as bloody as it was in the movie. Killing the bank teller. I expected blood all over the place, and I somehow think it's less gruesome than in the movie.
Maybe. I thought it was a bit more shocking because of the eyeballs and just, you know, the lack of blood made me focus on there. Plus, he had eyes in the hands too. But, you know, interesting point. Yeah. What else did you notice about these 2 episodes?
Well, Richie's a lot more interesting. He is in the first 2 episodes. He was still just that weird guy. He had some hints of stuff, but now it's just really coming to a point where there's definitely more than meets the eye.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this, because I think that's a really good point. I did not ask the doctor, so I just thought of this, but do you think that makes him a better character or a worse character? Because now, instead of being a guy that's mentally off his rocker, especially when it comes to the ladies, there's a reason for why he is the way he is, that lets him off the hook, therefore he's not as scary?
I don't know if it lets him off the hook, but I think it makes him more interesting because before it was just the fact that Quentin Tarantino was a disturbing person. Now he actually has a reason, a method to his madness.
Now he's like Ted Bundy.
It sounds like an Iron Maiden song. Can I play with madness? Yeah, overall, I think, I've said that I like the first 2 episodes more than these, but I still enjoyed them. I was still interested in going forward to 5 and 6. For you, did you get the same level of continuity?
I don't know. I really liked episode 4. I found the conversation between Richie and what's the girl's name?
Kate.
I found it interesting because you're disturbed because it's Richie.
Kind of turned on too. Just saying.
And as Richie's going on and basically solving her issues, next scene, Kate's just going to the room, and then suddenly he pops out behind her. I enjoyed the execution of that.
Yes. And I think she liked it. Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up, ladies and gentlemen. Pixel, I'm glad you're able to get in and give some thoughts on 2. I think yours pretty much echoed what the doctor and I had to say about it, liking 4 more than 3 and some of the other stuff too. I mentioned a little bit about Carlos and some other things. The doctor talked more about Vanessa, so maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk more about them if they show up in the next episodes, 5 and 6, with you gentlemen. And ladies, we'll see you next week.
So she was actually 19 years old when she was filming this. Wow.
That's legal in Texas, baby.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate you guys helping us grow as we get really closer to being at 1,000 subs. We're monetized. John, I know you mentioned in chat here that you want to see some scaring it. Yeah, we've kind of backed off a little bit on the production on some of the types of shows. It doesn't mean we're not doing them, but we have been making the listens last week of not just slasher, but 80s type horror movies to go over because we want to make sure we pick out some choice ones for the 80s, some hard to find gems, but as well as some classics and maybe some off the cuff ones. And I already have a number 1 and 2 on my list that I'll be sharing later.
Did you say some choice ones? Sorry.
Yes, I did. Blood Rage, Johnny is saying, yeah, okay. I want to say one right now, but I'm going to hold it because it's very good, but I'm going to tell you guys here offline. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Have a good night. Stay tuned for the 8 o'clock stream here shortly on the Xtreme Movie Show. For RDV, the Professor Bricks, and myself, stay extreme. Good night.